Welcome to DotNetCrunch, guys. So in this series, this is a part 4 of TypeScript tutorial. In this series, we will be covering up user-defined data types. So let's move on to Visual Studio and start from where we left in part 3 of this series. So in user-defined data types, we have array, interface, class, union, enum, and tuple. So let's see how we can declare array. So array in TypeScript are also similar to that of JavaScript and in any other programming language like C#. So let's see how we can define array over here. Let student of type string. I'm defining a student array of type string. So this is the way how I will do that. And here we can put in any name. Let's say ABC XYZ. So these are the two students which I want to initialize the array with. So I have a student array which is of type string and it contains name of two students. Okay, so there is another way using which you can define array, declare array in TypeScript, that is student and colon of array, and within the angle brackets you can give the type. So here it is string, so I'll give type as string, and again I can enter the data over here. So just copy paste it from here. So this is also perfectly fine. Here it is showing me some compilation warning because the name are the same. So let's do it, student1. So this is how we can declare arrays in TypeScript. So both the syntax, both the ways are totally fine. You can choose whatever way you feel comfortable with. So if I want to declare a student ID, array of containing student IDs, so how I would do that? Let student ID of type number, because you know IDs are like holding the integer data, and then I can go ahead and define the IDs 101, 102, so on, so forth. Okay, so this is number is not assignable. Yeah, it's an array, so angle brackets. So this is the way how we declare arrays in TypeScript. Let's move on to the next data type. Next user defined data type is interface. So let's check how we can define interface in TypeScript. So basically interfaces are nothing but a contract. Interface is defines how the data is being used within your application. So we can define properties and methods inside an interface, and TypeScript also allow us to define method in interface with arrow functions. So TypeScript supports arrow functions. So let's define an interface over here with the keyword interface, and the name of the interface should start with I. That's a naming convention. It's fine if you can give it plain student also without an I, but that's a standard what we follow for declaring interfaces. So this is my student interface, which will in which I can have data related to student. Let's have a student ID which is of type number. Let's have student name which is of type string, and then I can declare one method which will get me the results of the student. So get a result get result, in the bracket we need to pass the student ID, which is unique. So I'll get a result of each by passing the student ID, result of that particular student. And this is the return type. So return type should be a number, because the marks which we will be having would be in integer format, number format. So this is the way we declare method in TypeScript. So over here I can go with like student ID as a number. So this is my parameter which I'll be passing to this function. It is of type number. If we do not specify the type, it will take type of any, which is a superset of all the types, which we have seen in our earlier videos. In case you are not recalling that, you can watch our TypeScript series part 3. In that I have mentioned this. Okay, so let's move ahead, and here we can declare the same function using arrow functions. And how we will do that is get result. Over here it will give me an error, because for timing let's comment this out. So my function is get result. I need to define this as an arrow function. So get result is my function name, and here I'll be passing student ID, which is of type number, and it will give me result, which will be of type number, right? So this is how we define arrow functions in TypeScript. So guys, that's about it. So both the ways are fine. You can define your method inside an interface by using either of these methods. If you prefer arrow functions, you can go with this approach. If you prefer normal function, then you can write it this way. So that's about it. That's about interface. Let's move on to the next in the list is class. So let's move on to the class, how we can define a class in TypeScript. So classes are blueprint of the objects, which in any object oriented programming language we have a class as an object, right? So TypeScript also supports object oriented programming. It's an object oriented programming language. So like in C# and Java, how we define classes, the same way we can declare it in TypeScript as well. So class and the name of the class. So here we are dealing with a student object in our example. So let's take it. Let's define the class as well, as keeping that in mind. So class student, and the name of the class, and then the members, class members. So I can define student ID again, whatever we did in the interface, same way. Okay, sorry, here I forgot to put the semicolon, but I think it will work in any of the way. Okay, so number here it won't work like this. In interface it did work. Okay, so if you guys find any errors in your Visual Studio code regarding this, you can comment, put your comment in the below the video. We'll check that. So here it's not giving me any compilation error. Over here it was giving me, see, it won't give, because maybe I haven't included the name over here, so there's no definition. Student name, which is of type string, still it is giving me expected semicolon. So let's put the semicolon here. It didn't give me, so here it accepts semicolon also and comma also. Okay, no problem. So now we need a constructor in a class. So in C#, like we write constructor in Java or C# we write the constructor as the same name of a class name, right? But over here we have a special keyword for that called constructor. And in constructor we can define parameters. Like here we have two parameters, student ID and student name. So we want, whenever we create an object of the class, we can initialize these two. So ID, we need to define our constructor like that, ID and number, and then name of type string. Okay, so we can have any name over here. It's not mandatory to have. I can have a student ID. It should be a more relevant name, like you can by looking at your code you can understand what it is doing. Like the constructor is just getting the parameters of student ID and a name, which will be responsible for initializing the two members, student ID and student, this dot student name. Okay, so this is how we initialize the members. And we can have a same what we had in the interface. We can have a get results function over here, which will return me the number, and I can return, for time being, for making it simple, I'll just return some random score. Let's say our student scored 85 marks, and here I can pass on the student ID as a parameter. So this is the function. This is a method which I declare over here, which accepts one input parameter with number input parameter, and it returns a number. So here we are just returning a number. Okay, so that's how the class looks like. It have two members, one is number, one is string, and a constructor which will responsible for initialization, and we have one method. So that's how a class structure looks like in TypeScript. So guys, let's move to the next one, user defined data type, which is union. So union basically is a combination of two data types. So in TypeScript, if we want to use if such scenario occurs where we want a variable to hold both the values, like either of the values, like if I define one variable, let's say a, which can hold either integer value or string value, so that is achievable using union in TypeScript. So let's see this in action with an example. So I'll define one variable called ID. I hope it is not declared in the above in this file. So let ID of type string as well as number. So I want ID, a variable, to hold string or number data. So in this way I can define a union of those data types. So now ID will hold either number or either string, right? So it's perfectly fine for this ID variable to hold number and a string. If I give this any other value apart from these, let's say I'll try giving it boolean value, it won't hold. If I define this as a boolean number, I haven't tried this, let's try it. So here we can define as many as possible. So our ID variable now will hold string, either number or boolean type of data. So this is perfectly fine. So this is how we do a union of different data types in TypeScript. So let's move to the next in the list, which is enum. Enum is basically a way of giving friendly, more friendly name to a numeric values. They allow us to declare a set of named constants. For example, we have days of a week, right? So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So we can define an enum like enum day of week, and here we can define like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So this is my enum, and next we will be declaring we will be declaring one variable of type let's say we want to assign a value to the variable a day of week as number, which is equals to my enum is day of week, and I want to assign it as a Saturday. Okay, so let's print this value. Let's from 0 to Sunday, like 6th, 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So Saturday should give us 5, value of 5. Let's see, let's print this console.log and day of week. So let's see what value it has to give. It will return. Let us compile. Let us first compile this. So tsc and the file name TypeScript, and it will give me the JavaScript, and that JavaScript file I can run through Node. So it gives me 5, 0 1 2 3 4 5, and that's all about enums. Now let's move ahead and check out tuple, the last of this data type, user defined data types. So a tuple is a data type which holds two set of values of different data types. So we have seen union, right? Union also it was a different data types, but in this it's a set of different values. It's like a data structure. So basically, let me explain you this with the help of example. So I have an variable with a name city, and I want to define it as a tuple. So it should contain data of number as well as string. So that this structure, how the structure will look like is like 1 comma string value, which is let's say Delhi. Okay, so my city is a tuple which will hold a data in this format, number and a string. So this is how tuple works in TypeScript. So we are storing both number as well as string type of data in the same variable. So that's what you can do with a tuple. So guys, that's it for this particular video. We have completed user defined data types in this series, and in case you have any issues or any doubts, you can comment below this video and I'll reply to your comment. And if you like this video, please do subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends.